Hello YouTube, welcome to another Season 6 Patch 6.3 guide by eGaming Television. In this one we are going to be covering Mordekaiser, the Iron Revenant.
I shall bring great suffering.
Mordekaiser is now traditionally found in either the mid or top lane. In this guide we're going to be showing you mid lane gameplay, however a lot of things in this guide will also be able to be used in the top lane. Mordekaiser is not currently a popular meta pick, however, he can bully lane opponents very well and can single-handedly carry games. He's a champion that does have a lot of cons, however he can still be picked if you are looking to just pub stomp games. I just want to quickly mention as well, if you are looking for more guides, you can go to www.egamingtv.com for a nice list of our champion guides. So let's start this guide by covering his pros and cons, starting with his first pro, which is he is strong against assassins. As you can see in this guide, our lane opponent is Zed, and you can see how bullied he is getting in the mid lane. One of the main reasons he is so strong against assassins is just because of his passive shield. When he is using his abilities against his opponent, he will be gaining a shield that does block a lot of the trade damage. On top of this, he's also got two ways to heal himself and can usually either survive the engagement or even turn the fight around, killing his opponent. Mordekaiser's next pro is that he's also got strong teamfight potential. With his W, he's able to make both himself and his ally do AoE damage and heal themselves at the end of the duration. This is especially nice on an engaging champion such as a Leona or Shen. They'll be able to get into the fight, do more damage than they'd usually do, and then be able to heal as well and not usually die in the engagement. Since Mord's also a melee champion and he builds somewhat tanky, he's going to be also soaking a bunch of damage in that team fight. This allows his squishy high damage allies to do a lot more damage as they're going to be trying to bring down the Mord. Another pro that Mord does have is that he's a lane bully. This is especially effective against melee champions that have to go into minions to last hit. Mord's able to go near the minion line with his W on. If the enemy opponent does go in for last hits, he's going to take a bunch of the damage since Mord is maxing his W first. He'll then be able to use his Q and E to add more damage, gain his shield, and not take any return damage. For a lot of mid laners out there, it can be rather hard to out-trade a Mord. Another pro that Mord has is he's able to make the game a 6v4. When he uses his ultimate on a target, if they do die, they end up joining his team, leaving his team in a 6v4 advantage. The ghost he does gain can completely change the game as well. I remember in one game before when I was against a Mordekaiser, he gained an Udyr every single team fight. The Udyr had high damage and always died in bear form for some reason. And guess what? That bear form Udyr, it still stunned you. So now not only were we trying to kill the other 5 opponents, but we had this friggin' bear chasing us around trying to stun us. It honestly made the game so unfair and we got completely shit on. Because of stuff like this, Mord can completely turn around games. If any of your allies end up getting out of position and Mord's always able to grab them, it's really hard to win a 6v4. The thing that's annoying as well is even if he's gaining champions that don't matter a whole lot in the fight, he's still getting increased stats, and we're going to look at that when we do get to his ultimate page. Mord's last pro is that he's got great lane sustain. This pretty much all comes from his W. He's able to quickly activate it around minions or enemy champions, gaining a bunch of health. It's a really nice thing for Mord when he is in the mid lane because he can quickly hop to the wraiths, quickly activate his W twice, gaining a big chunk of health, and then quickly just hopping back into the mid lane. Mord's first con is that he's got a complete lack of CC. He offers absolutely nothing in the form of crowd control until he does get his Ryales. Ryales is very, very amazing on Mord considering it does work with his W. However, like I said before, until he has this, he's offering nothing in the form of CC. When the jungler is ganking your lane, it can usually be pretty hard to get those kills, unless of course your jungler is bringing some form of CC. Another con Mord does have is he's got horrendous base movement speed. This is a movement speed of 325, which is tied with champions such as Anivia and Nautilus. The difference of course is Anivia and Nautilus can either stun you from range or get to you. Mord of course can't do either of these. This kind of runs in with the third con, which is he's highly gankable early on. So he's got shitty base movement speed and, of course, no way to actually escape in his kit either. This right here is probably one of the biggest reasons he's not actually used a whole lot, if at all actually, in competitive play. Professional players are going to be able to completely abuse the fact that you are going to be pushed in your lane and you're not going to be able to escape if they gank. This enables the enemy mid laner to completely snowball and take over a game. Mordekaiser's masteries are a little unique considering his keystone mastery is Storm Raider's Surge. This is a mastery that's not taken by a lot of champions, however it is insanely good on an immobile melee champion such as Mordekaiser. So we start in the ferocity tree by first grabbing sorcery, so we get 2% increased ability damage. We follow that up with double-edged sword. Since he is a melee champion, he gets 3% additional damage and takes 1.5% additional damage as well. Since Mord does make some nice use out of his AD and AP, we then get natural talent, so we get plus 10 attack damage and plus 15 ability power at level 18. And then we finally move into Bounty Hunter, so we deal 1% increased damage for each unique enemy champion you have killed, as we don't have any form of CC in our kit. We then move into the cunning side by first grabbing Savagery, so our single target attacks and spells deal 5 bonus damage to minions and monsters. This just helps us last hit a little bit easier in the lane. Even though Mord is not an assassin, we grab the Assassin Mastery, so we deal 2% increased damage to champions when no allied champions are nearby. This is just to bully the mid lane opponent a little harder. We follow that up with Merciless, so we deal 5% increased damage to champions below 40% health, and Dangerous Game, so champion kills and assists restore 5% of our missing health. We then move into Precision, so we gain 3 plus 0.3 per level Magic Pen and Armor Pen, since we make nice use out of both of those. We then move into our Keystone Mastery, which is Storm Raider Surge. When we deal 30% of a champion's max health within 2.5 seconds, we are granted 40% movement speed and 75% slow resistance for 3 seconds. And this is on a 10-second cooldown. With Mord's kit, that amount of damage is easily dealt to squishy targets in that duration. We are an extremely immobile melee champion, so all of that movement speed and slow resist can get us to our next target or to chase an opponent. This is easily the best Keystone Mastery for Mordekaiser, and there's not any alternative at all. For Mord's runes, we take 9 Greater Marks of Magic Penetration, 9 Greater Seals of Armor, 9 Greater Glyphs of Magic Resist, and 3 Greater Quintessences of Ability Power. These runes in combination give us 7.83 Magic Penetration, 12.06 Magic Resist, 9 Armor, and 14.85 Ability Power. These runes give us a lot of defensive stats in the magic resistant armor and a lot of damage from the ability power and magic penetration. It gives us a really nice combination of both offensive and defensive stats. For Mord summoners, we take Ignite and Flash. Ignite is generally a great summoner for mid laners. It's even better on Mordekaiser due to the fact that it can help finish off enemies, so you're able to get a ghost. On top of that, it's even great against champions who abuse healing. Fuck you, Mundo, you're a bitch. Flash has a lot of defensive and offensive uses. This can allow you to escape from champions, or can be used to chase opponents if needed. Since Mordekaiser is a very immobile champion, this is 100% a must-have. I find myself using Flash offensively most of the time, so I can finish off a kill, get a ghost, and completely turn a team fight in my team's favor. So let's talk about each of Mord's abilities, starting with his passive, which is called Iron Man. Mordekaiser shields himself for 25% of the damage dealt by his abilities, which is halved to 12.5% against enemy minions and capped at 25% maximum health. After a 1.5 second delay, Iron Man's shield decays at a rate of 1.5% based health per second down to a minimum of 6.25% maximum health. So this is a fairly simple to understand passive. Basically you hit stuff with your abilities and you gain a shield. When you're in the lane phase, you can quickly hit some minions with abilities and then go in and trade with the opponent. Generally in this situation, all you're going to be losing is your passive shield, while they will of course be losing their health. Mord's high single target damage ability is his Q, which is called Mace of Spades. Mordekaiser's next 3 basic attacks deal bonus magic damage. The final strike does 2 times the bonus damage of the previous strikes. So the first and second hits bonus magic damage is between 10 and 50 plus up to 90% AD and 60% AP. The third one, as it said, is double, so it's between 20 and 100 base plus between 100 and 180% AD and 120% AP. Mace of Spades also resets Mordekaiser's auto attack timer. The cost is between 20 and 32 health, and the cooldown goes from 10 to 4 seconds at max rank. So the first thing to note about this ability is it's got a really high AD and AP ratio. His E also does AD and AP as well, however his W and R are based on AP. Since all of his abilities do work off of his AP, we are going to go for an AP heavy build, but because of Q and E, he could go for an AD mix build as well. Very simply, you activate this ability, and your next 3 attacks do a bunch of bonus damage, so there's not a whole lot to say about it really. The cooldown will end up at only 4 seconds as well, so you can actually use this fairly often. This is the ability we max right after our W, since it is amazing single target damage. Mordekaiser's W is called Harvester of Sorrow, and it is the first ability we do max on him. The passive is Mordekaiser gains bonus experience when killing a minion near allies equal to 50% of the experience he lost due to them being there, which totals are 82.6, 71.73, 66.3, 63.04, and 60.87% of the minion's experience bounty. This part I'm not going to really touch on too much. It was a big part of him when he was a good bottom laner. However, with some changes, he's not really traditionally found in the bottom lane, so the experience only affects him when people are sitting in his mid lane. All it really means is if you guys are sieging and he is getting some last hits in mid lane, he's getting a bit more XP than a traditional mid laner. So for the active first cast, Mordekaiser targets an allied champion or minion, and for the next 4 seconds, they gain 75 bonus movement speed while moving towards each other, which lingers for 1.5 seconds. When near enough to each other, each deal magic damage in an area of effect around themselves every second for the duration. Melee and caster minions have a smaller AoE. Harvester of Sorrow ends if Mordekaiser or his ally dies. The magic damage per second is between 35 and 75, plus 22.5% AP. A good way to use this ability would be, let's say you're with a Leona on your team. You can put this ability on her and she can jump into the team fight. Since you're going to be moving towards Leona, you will be gaining 75 bonus movement speed and you'll make it into the fight faster. When you guys are near enough to each other, you're then going to be dealing this magic damage per second in the area. With 2 of you hitting multiple enemies in a team fight, that can actually add up to a ton of magic damage in an AoE. This can also be reactivated and can do a bunch of nuke and heal you as well, which I'm going to be getting into as well. So moving on with this ability, for the next 4 seconds, Mordekaiser can reactivate Harvester of Sorrow to end its primary effects and trigger a secondary effect, which triggers automatically at the end of its duration. If activated while no allies are nearby, Mordekaiser will highlight an area around him and can reactivate the ability as normal. The first ally to come in range will automatically gain the effect too. For the active second cast, Mordekaiser constricts the area, dealing magic damage to all enemies near himself and his ally, as well as healing himself and his ally for the same amount for up to 2 enemies hit in their respective areas. Healing is reduced to 25% when harvesting minions. The harvest damage and heal per enemy is between 50 and 190 plus 30% AP, and the heal versus minions is 12.5 to 47.5 plus 7.5% AP. The range at which you can use the ability is 1000 and the radius is 250. The cost is between 25 and 65 health, and the cooldown goes from 12 to 8 seconds at max rank. So very simply, on the second cast, you will then end the effect, doing a bunch of damage, and healing yourself and the other person it is on. Try to keep the first cast on as long as possible and use this when you do need to finish off an enemy or heal yourself or a teammate. You can also put this on you, hop into the raptor camp, activate it a second time, and run away, gaining a bunch of health. Well, that was a rather long ability, but we're going to hop into our E now, which is called Siphon of Destruction. Mordekaiser deals magic damage to all enemies in a cone in the target direction, and the magic damage is between 35 and 155, plus 60% AD and 60% AP. For each enemy champion hit, Mordekaiser gains a bonus percentage of his Iron Man shield, and the bonus shield gained is between 15 and 25%. The range is 675, the cost is between 24 and 72 health, and the cooldown goes from 6 to 5 seconds. This is an okay ability, however your W can really bully opponents and your Q does a hell of a lot more single target damage, so even though this is a good ability, we still max it last. The others go down a lot more in cooldown as well, as this only loses 0.25 of a second. Mordekaiser's last ability is called Children of the Grave, and it is his ultimate, and this lets him take control of dragons and enemy champions. For his passive, which is called Dragon Force, Mordekaiser's basic attacks and abilities curse the dragon for 10 seconds. Enslaving the dragon activates Dragon Force, granting the dragon increased range and modified movement speed, and disables Children of the Grave while it remains active, killing Mordekaiser's current ghost. The bonus attack range it gets is between 0 and 150, and the bonus movement speed is between -50 and +50. So all the passive part really does is it marks the dragon for 10 seconds. If his team kills it in that 10 seconds, he gains control of it. As it says, if he did have a ghost, this will kill the ghost. He can also not use this ultimate when he has a dragon, so he cannot have both a ghost of an enemy champion and the dragon. For the active, Mordekaiser curses the target enemy champion, dealing them magic damage and healing for 100% of the damage done. He then applies a 3 times stronger effect to the target again over the next 10 seconds. The initial magic damage is between 6.25 and 8.75% plus 1% per 100 AP of the target's maximum health. The magic damage per second is between 1.875 and 2.625% plus 0.3% per 100 AP of the target's maximum health. So the two things to note here are the high AP damage it does deal and the fact that it does do it based on the target's maximum health, meaning it can kill the tanky champions on the enemy team. This is just the damage that this ability does do. We're going to hop into the next little page of this ability, which is what the Ghost does offer. If Mordekaiser's team scores a takedown on a cursed enemy, he temporarily enslaves their soul as a controllable ghost that gains 100% of Mordekaiser's bonus AD as bonus AD, and 15% of Mordekaiser's maximum health as bonus maximum health. While the Ghost is active, Mordekaiser gains 25% of the target's bonus health, which does not enhance the Ghost's bonuses, and 30% of target's AP. The Ghost duration is between 45 and 75 seconds, the range is 650, and the cooldown goes from 120 to 90 seconds. So it's usually good to take a high AD champion for your Ghost, so it just does a bunch of damage. However, as you can see, he gains a lot of health if he does take a tanky target, so that's also a very good option. He does not gain their AD, however taking an AD Ghost is still good as it will still do a ton of damage going around for Mordekaiser. As I said in the very beginning of the video, the Ghost will still do things that the champion would do, such as Uter being in bear form. It'll still go around stunning people, which is insanely annoying. With all of his abilities finally out of the way, we're going to look at his ability order, and it starts with his R, which is Children of the Grave, and you take it at 6, 11, and 16. Your first basic ability is W, which is Harvester of Sorrow. You take it at 1, 4, 5, 7, and 9. And this ability is just great to bully the crap out of mid laners as it actually does a ton of damage and you get health in the end as well. We then move on to Mace of Spades, which is your Q. You take it at level 3, 8, 10, 12, and 13. And this is great because it actually adds a ton of single target damage. Lastly is your E, which is Siphon of Destruction. You take it at 2, 14, 15, 17, and 18. It does do a great amount of damage, however, it is not as good as your W and Q, so you have to take it last. For Mordekaiser's item build, we start with a Doran Shield, Health Potion, and Warding Totem. We go for this setup because Mordekaiser, being a melee champion, can get rather bullied in the mid lane usually, depending on his opponent. Since his abilities do also cost health, having that regen on the Doran Shield is also a really nice thing to have. Our early core starts with an Abyssal or a Zhonya's depending on if we are against an AP or AD mid lane champion. Once we get one of those, we then get a Ryali's, so we get some tankiness and the slow, which is actually very, very amazing to have on Mordekaiser. And finally, we get the Sork Boots for the magic penetration. An example full build, if we were against an AD mid laner, would be the Zhonya's, then a Ryali's, the Sork Boots. We would then move into a Nashor's Tooth since it has a bunch of ability power and attack speed. On top of that, it even has 20% cooldown reduction, and your basic attacks deal 15 plus 15% of ability power bonus magic damage on hit. This is really good since Mordekaiser, of course, is auto-attacking a lot, but the better part is the attack speed because you can get your Qs off a lot faster. We then get a Luden's Echo, so we get a bunch of movement speed and the nice burst it gives as well. And finally, we get the other part of the early core, which would be either the Abyssal Scepter or the Zhonya's. In this case, it is the Abyssal Scepter. If we were looking to get a bit tankier, a Sterak's Gauge is a great item on Mordekaiser since he can't really get bursted anymore. Since he does work well off of AD and AP, a Trinity Force and Hextech Gunblade are both viable options on him as well. Finally, Void Staff is also a great item on him if the enemy team is getting a lot of magic resist and he needs to penetrate through a lot of it. That pretty much covers it for our Mordekaiser mid lane 6.3 guide. You guys can go to www.egamingtv.com if you would like to view our other guides, and you can find us on Twitter at egaming_TV. Mordekaiser is a great lane bully, however he is very gankable since he has to be close to get CS and he generally pushes the lane. He is a really fun champion to play, however, considering you can take the enemy's fed laner, turn them into your team, and then easily win team fights with their own champion. If you guys have any comments or suggestions, please leave those below and I'll be sure to look at those and answer those as well. If you guys also enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe as we will have lots and lots more League of Legends content coming out in the near future. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you guys around the YouTube channel.